Thank you for tuning in to the best parenting show on the internet, Post Daily Dose.
It's the Post. It's the Post. It's the Post. The Post Daily Dose. It's the Post. It's the Post. It's the Post. The Post Daily Dose. It's the Post. It's the Post.
Hey, good evening, Facebook family. Welcome to another episode of Post Daily Dose with me, your trusted parenting advisor, faithful guide, and servant on the healing journey. What's my name? Big Papa, Brian+Post. Welcome to freaking fabulous Friday, everyone. Freaking fabulous Friday. Freaking fabulous Friday. There for a minute, I was like, maybe it's Thursday. I never know. Sometimes I forget. Anyway, here in Atlanta, let me see if we can show you guys a little bit of the... I never know if you can really see it. There you go. Oh, yeah. Look at that sky. Beautiful, beautiful. And then there's this big high-rise up there. Right there. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. We're in Atlanta in the ATL. And it's Friday. And Big Papa's in Atlanta because Monday I'm going to go be presenting at the PACT conference in... outside of here, right outside of Atlanta. And so, let's see, what was it? Oh my goodness, let me count the years. 18 years ago, I used to have my little daughter travel around the country with me, and she would sit in my lectures while I lectured all day. And now she's 24 years old, and there she is.
You all?
She's laying in the bed listening to me. And I'm not lecturing. I'm lecturing to you guys. I'm not lecturing in front of a group. But people used to always be amazed that Michaela would sit in the corner of the room. I'd have her up in the front of the stage on a blanket with her little coloring books and her little Barbie dolls. And she'd be there all day, and people would come up and they'd be like, oh my gosh, she's so well behaved. And I would just say, it's time in. You know, she's close. It'd be different if I had her at the back of the room all by herself or isolated, but you bring time in, bring your child up close to you, keep them connected. They feel safe. They feel regulated. And we used to have the best time. We'd just go from city to city, and she was such a little road warrior. Always been my little road warrior, so I'm very excited to have her on this trip. Hey, Barry. Yes, lots of great restaurants. Actually, Michaela's got a restaurant number 2 lined up for us this evening as soon as I finish up here. So, speaking of restaurants, last night I was in a restaurant with my mom. Told you guys, had to sign off early. Post Daily Dose was early last night because I was taking my mom and my uncle out to dinner. And so we were eating, and there was a mom and a little girl, and the little girl was in a state of distress. The mom was in a state of distress. I had my back turned to them. My mom was facing them. And she was being very nosy. And the little girl was very agitated. She was mad. She was fussing about something, and the mom was just being really rational and being very logical. And they were sitting across, in this booth from one another. And mom said, Brian. I'm like, my name's Bennett, and I ain't in it. I don't get into other people's parenting business unless I am invited. So if you are in Walmart and you are having an episode with your kiddo and I walk by, unless you invite me into that episode, I am probably going to keep walking unless someone is going to be harmed. That's about the only time I'm going to intervene. So I was enjoying my food, enjoying my dinner, and they just kept bickering back and forth. And the little girl she was agitated. Mom was telling, the little girl was saying, we're going to go to the park. And when we leave here, we're going to go to the park because you said we were going to go to the park. And I don't know where Dad is, but he better get back here right now because we're going to go back to the park as soon as we're done. And Mom was like, no, we're not going to go to the park. You shouldn't have done this. You shouldn't have done that. And it just was going on and on. And surprisingly, the child didn't completely lose her mind. I was really thankful for that. But at one point, I got up to kind of remove some stuff off the table. And I was walking by, and Mom had obviously... So this is so interesting that we do this. And it's because we don't know. If you don't know, you don't know. Little girl's completely stressed out. I don't know what the kid's history is. I don't know. I could surmise that there's some challenges just by a quick observation of the mom and a quick observation of the child. I could surmise that there's been some kind of history there. As I'm walking by, mom says to the little girl, she asks her some kind of question. The little girl says, I didn't do that. And mom says, okay, well, you're going to get a spanking. And I'm like, oh my gosh. It just escalates. We just escalate up and up and up and up. When your kid is stressed out, first of all, you have to realize that you're probably stressed out too. And when you're stressed out, you're going to be stressing your kid out even more. And if your kid has any kind of history whatsoever, they're going to be operating from their history. They're not going to be operating from the present. They're operating from their history. So the kid saying, we're going to go to the park, wasn't the kid saying, we're going to go to the park in this moment. It was the kid saying, if we don't go to the park, it means you don't love me, you don't want me. If we don't go to the park, it means something bad's going to happen, reflective of my history. If we don't go to the park, then it means you probably don't want me here anymore. It's all connected to the history. But what happens is when we don't know, and we get caught in and mired up in the moment, and we think, for the parent, for the adult brain, we think it's about the moment. Like for the adult brain, we want to make it about the present. But you got to realize that when you're stressed out and arguing with a stressed out 10-year-old, you're not in the present either. Like you're trying to be logical and create all these concepts and make these connections and make sense to this kid who's completely stressed out. It's because you're completely obsessing about the future or reacting from the past. You're not in the present, and because you're not in the present, you can't connect to the fact that the kid has exceeded their window of tolerance. They're completely dysregulated and they're struggling. And so you start trying to use logic for an emotional scenario, and it just is never going to work. It's a no-win situation. And so we eventually ended up leaving before there was any kind of resolve. But the point is, you've got to realize that when your kids are stressed, I so much want you to be able to grasp this, and I know how difficult it is. Just had a question come up recently from a mom in one of my groups that I work with, and there was a whole sequence of events. One of the kids was saying, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. The parent was insistent on the young man doing this, and it ended up being a bad night. And then mom wonders why it's a bad night. And it's not that the kid is doing anything that they shouldn't do, because what they're doing is reflective of their history. Your child's behavior is reflective of their history. It's a representation of their history. It is a manifestation of their history. It's not about the present. It's not about the role that you've had with your child. It's not about what you've created with your child. It's not about the home you've created for your child. It's about their experience. And when their brainstem gets turned on, all their trauma gets turned on, and that's what changes their lens. And when that happens, that's all they can see. It's not about that. And then when we get into that space to where we can't just slow down and we can't just be present and we can't just connect and we can't make adjustments. We as adults can't make adjustments. You know, mom, what could mom have done? I don't even know all of the situation, but mom could have taken a deep breath and she could have just said, honey, it's okay. Give me your hands, baby. Give me your hands. We're okay. We're going to be okay. We're going to figure this out. Breathe with mama. Breathe with mama. But I do feel, and I feel this, I feel like sometimes in the midst of heightened situations, as parents, when we feel really isolated, when we feel really alone, we have a tendency to kind of want people to see how bad our kids are, to feel sorry for us. Not all the time, but in some situations I feel that. It's either we want people to feel bad for us because our kids are so bad, which is sad, or we want people to feel like we're doing a really good job. And you know what? It's nobody's business. It's nobody's business whether you're a shitty parent or whether you're a great parent. It's nobody's business. It's your business, and it's your child's business. It's nobody else's business. Nobody, who cares about anybody else? Who cares about anybody else's opinion? It's about your relationship with your child. Don't look for approval from other people. Don't look for, and there's a lot of parenting groups right now on the internet, parents that feel scared and helpless and overwhelmed. They don't know what to do. They're mired in a victim state. They all get together. They're all victimized by their children because they were all victimized children themselves. And it's always one story, one bad story after the next to trump someone else's story. Oh, your story was bad. You should hear my story. And it's like everyone's looking for sympathy. Grieve for yourself. Learn to grieve for yourself. Learn to honor yourself. Learn to honor your own pain. And then consider this. Honor your child's pain and what they've been through. You've both suffered. Everyone has suffered. But who's honoring who? Who's grieving for who? Who's creating an opportunity and an experience and a window and a holding environment, a containing environment, emotional containing environment for us to just let go and realize that, yeah, we've experienced terrible things, but we have the ability to grow through them and we can do better. So it doesn't have to be as difficult as you think. It is difficult because it's creating conditioning. It's reconditioning your brain. Your brain's conditioned to do the things that it does. That's the only difficulty. Otherwise, it's very simple. The only difficulty is in the conditioning, the reconditioning. You have to create those repetitions. So just keep in mind that when you think it's really, really, really bad, it's really not that bad. Your fear makes you feel like it's that bad, and you get frantic and you get overwhelmed, and you feel all isolated and you feel helpless, and you start worrying about what it's going to be like when your kid's 18, and oh my gosh, it just runs away with itself. Catch that. Don't let it run away with itself, because that's the fear of the future. That's projecting into the future. Pull that back into the moment and ask yourself, is what I'm dealing with right now really that bad? I just had a mom send me a video of her son. He's like 4 or 5, and he's regressed. He's like 2 a lot of times, and he's doing 2-year-old stuff. And she's talking to him and talking to him and talking to him. And I'm like, he's just 2. I mean, that's just little boy stuff. As long as the other little boy isn't completely distressed, the challenge is to calm yourself down. Don't be a helicopter parent, because when you're being a helicopter parent, you're just like anxious about everything. Like, parents really get into that dynamic, just being on top of everything. Relax, chill, give your kids some space. Let them be little hellions for a little bit. It's not the end of the day, and the end of the world. No one's going to die. So just calm yourself down, breathe. Because in any given situation, we always have 2 choices. In any given moment, you always have 2 choices. You can just continue to react from the same experiences of stress and fear and overwhelm, and just like micromanage and get intense and threaten your child with a spanking and, grounding and taking stuff away. Or you can stop, you can take 3 to 10 deep breaths. You can say, you know what? Is this really as bad as I think it is? And in that moment, in that space, you're choosing love. And I hope you guys will choose love. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Big Papa loves you. Monday, I'm going to be at the PAC conference. Maybe I'll stream a little bit if I can. Weekend's coming up, so hope you guys have a great weekend. And God bless you. We'll talk to you soon.